Hello, so a very good afternoon to each and every one of you who's taking time to be with us. This is day one of a 5-day series where we start the anchor on kids. So Mom Space Summit is created with the intention to create a space for parents to not just connect with experts, but to also have your questions answered. Because at the end of it, we are here to support you in what you go through. So if you have any questions for my teenage experts, do write in. Each of them are going to be helping something very different. So I want to talk about this. How were you as a teenager? So teenage is a period of very intense growth. Not just physically, I think physically is during the younger years, but emotionally and intellectually and socially. Am I right? Because friends become of increasing importance. So it's understandable that it's a time of confusion and upheaval for many families. So I have different experts. This one, game addiction, Pauline. Dr. Debbie will cover emotional mood swings. Well, 1 minute happy, 1 minute irritable. And Delphine, my teen zillions coach, will talk about the disconnection or how do we actually connect them. Okay, so if I were to introduce each of them, Pauline founded Comeback, which helps gamers gain mastery over their games. And I think what I really love is it increases their self-awareness, and ultimately their program is talking about purpose. Like, what is my life's purpose instead of being aimless and going just with the crowd. And then Dr. Debbie, she's an autism and learning disorder practitioner with a very unique program for dyslexia, ADHD, ADD, and brain regeneration. I love where she comes from because she talks about understanding a child's nutritional and emotional needs. Their children can actually become completely healthy. So one thing that can I share that is very remarkable is she has 4 children. And while we know autism is supposed to be a condition for life, she refused to take it lying down. She traveled 4 continents. And today, her first child has completely recovered naturally from autism. Am I right? So I think that's an amazing story. And we do have Delphine, who founded Teen Zillions and Mom Zillions, and her experience. So she comes from experience, not just theory, where she helps moms with rebellious teens, unmotivated, the one way to regain their purpose in life, because I think that's what we go through, yeah? So I want to open the floor to each and every one of you. Probably if we start with Delphine, as a teen zillions and mom zillions, I love the way you come mom zillions, because as the teenagers are rebellious, I think the mothers also need to build some form of resilience, right? What are some common issues for those in this age group?
I think a lot of times the teenagers, they are going through a very difficult period and they question their self-identity a lot, and they may have a lot of questions inside their head, but they're scared to voice it out. They will be asking themselves like, am I normal? Why I have such bad thoughts? I'm a terrible person. My parents are so cool. I mean, not so cool. They won't say their parents are cool, but they will think inside their heart that their parents are quite respectable, but how come they have such evil thoughts? And they are scared, like, am I normal? What's wrong with me? And that keep on occurring in their head. And they find that the only people that they can connect with are the teens, right? Friends of their own age, and their friends will assure them, yeah, you're okay lah, be cool, man. There's nothing wrong with you. I also the same. So there's nothing to worry about. And so they actually go to these teens or social media to get information, and they find that that is the best and most reliable source of information, where there are a lot of lies and deception, where the truth is masked as lies and lies become truth, and parents sometimes become the last people to know what's actually happening to them, because we tend to be very reactive, right? And then we get shocked, and we react, and we do not create a safe space where they can be vulnerable and show up themselves as who they are, even though they have a lot of anxiety.
I think that's so relevant in what you share. It's like that judging, like I used to hide from my parents and lie to my parents because I don't want to get scolding, So I think that's very real. And teenage, I think it's a period where we begin to assert our identity, which you may not agree with me. Then how? So don't tell you better. Huh? So okay, let's move on to Dr. Debbie. I want to ask you. Your work promotes relationship building between parents and kids. So, like there are a lot of parents who probably didn't have access to the work that you are doing. So now teenage, because we know that if the relationship is tight and good, there is already that connection. But what if, the primary school years, I didn't have time with my kids because I'm busy working, and now I want to do something about it. Would you have anything to say about, because you talk about positivity, empathy, commitment, acceptance, would you want to say more on your work?
Actually, there is no such thing as too late. If the parents decided they actually wanted to cross that bridge, they can and they should, because this is the biggest investment that they can have in their life. The thing is that in my work, I pay attention on 5 very important things. So first, I want the child to have enough sleep. Second, I want to have the child to have enough exercise. Third, I need the kids to have enough nutrition. 4, less stress. And number 5, which is the most important, is the relationship. The relationship actually is a medicine because the child started to learn things from role modeling, from people around them. Then they started to learn about life, learn about being connected to the people around them. So parents are the first role model for a child. As a child grows and as they enter teenagehood, there are a lot of different things that happens around them. And they can be dissuaded, they can be disillusioned, but parents are there. And parents need to understand the strength of them, the power of being parents. Only by they realizing how important they are, no matter how much the teenage might look like they don't need the parents. They need to realize that no matter what happens, they are still living with their teenage children. And whatever they do and what things that they show are picked up by these teenagers. So they need to understand that if they wanted to do something, they wanted to change the situation, they first need to change.
Well, I think it's very powerful. You got me there when you were sharing it's never too late. Because I think sometimes, I think Delphine would also identify with this, sometimes as a parent, I'm exhausted. I've tried so many things. My kid is into addiction, slams the door, cuts me off. What do I do? But I love where you come from, where it's never too late, parents. So for those of you who are out there, I want you to know it doesn't matter what your kid is going through, and we will be covering these topics, whether it's about depression, addiction, or even them being unmotivated. We will be covering this in the course of this. It's never too late. And the good news, it starts with us. It starts with us first by saying, what's in the past is in the past, and now it's a clean slate. Let's newly create from here through small actionable steps. Yeah. So let's talk about gaming, Pauline. I want to ask you. Statistics have shown that I think 1 in 5 are gamers, right? Am I right? I mean, we're all. I mean, the 2 of you are parents. 1 in 5 teens today are gamers. Actually, my husband also gamer. I tell you, would you be able to give an intro into the 4 profiles of a gamer?
So 1 in 5, there was a recent survey we did. So we only released the results just 2 days, last week. So we went to about 10 schools and we got them to do the game dependency test, which is based on DSM-5, which is the American Psychiatrists Association test. And we found out that 19.4%. So it was something 1 out of 5. And how we work with the gamers, a lot of parents think that gamers the same, everybody play just play. What helped us is that we have categorized the gamers into 4 types. It may not be hard and fast, okay, just like any types. It is just a guideline. So don't stereotype someone in that frame. Okay, I think that's the key. Like if your child, you see that, please don't just label them like that. I think that's something we always try to avoid. But it helps us to understand why their motivations, why are they doing what they're doing. So the 4 player types. First one, achievers, okay. Second one, gurus, okay. The third one, the explorers, and the 4th one, the socializers. I'll start from the fourth one because they are majority of the gamers. Socializers. Okay, I think with the advent of internet, the internet is where the kids are socializing. You look at the playgrounds outside, right, with the HDB and stuff, empty. Nobody is there. Okay, nobody is there. You go to cyber cafe, then you see all the kids down there already. You know, at home, you look at the computer, they are sitting there. So why? They are there to find their friends. Okay, they go and meet friends, and it may not be from their school. It could be somewhere else in halfway around the world. So you're wondering why they are awake at 3 a.m. Simply because they have a friend in the US and it's 3 p.m. there and on after school and the kid is playing. So it becomes a very different playground for them. And how do you tell their socializers? You say, oh, because my friend, you know, when you ask them, you say, my friend is there. I want to meet so and so there. My friend is playing this. You know, then why you change game? Oh, because my friends all change to this other game. So when they talk about games, it's always in relation to someone that they know in the gaming space. Okay, so it's very people-centered. They just want to belong somewhere and meet their friends. So majority of the gamers are in this category. Okay, and I want to talk about the next category, okay, which is the achievers. Okay, I think this one, I think some of the parents might be a bit more familiar with this. Okay, achievers are players who really must win. Winning is very important. So how do you tell that probably your kid is an achiever? Is when they play, right? Then suddenly they will yell so loud, and then sometimes, yeah. Vulgarity come out also because when they lose the game or they're losing, and then it just, wow, the emotions is, you know, like peak, and then when they lose, like, wow, everything comes out, you know, and they get very upset, very, very upset. They cannot lose, okay, cannot lose, really cannot lose. And then when you ask them, like, they will tell you all their laurel, you know, what they have won, their achievements in the game, and that's their bragging rights. Okay, they really brag about it. And if you want to understand the psychology behind this, it's because they are looking for affirmation. And a lot of times our clients will have the mention of independency is because in real life they can't find the information they're looking for. And it's very hard. Yeah. So we start to look for it in the games, and that's why failure, you realize in real life, failures become very difficult for them. They are the ones who will retreat. Okay, like in family, if they feel very judged by their parents, they are the ones who will shut themselves in the rooms, generally. And parents find it very hard to talk to them. Talk to them about studies, well, shut. Don't say anything, sometimes they get angry, and they can get violent as well because of emotions that they reach. So achievers, we do have a lot more achievers who have game addiction or game dependence issues simply because of the motivation and how games actually need that they can't find fulfillment in real life at this point. Okay, so I'll go on to gurus. Okay, gurus are the type of gamers who want to be the master of the game. So whether they win the game or not is secondary. But they want to know everything about the game. So that means all the little things, everything, you know, like they want to break the game. When they say break the game, like how to solve the puzzle, right? How many routes can they get to that solution? So they will want to know everything. So they will be the gamers who, if a new game comes out, they probably spend time, right, just to make sure that they are the ones who will be able to crack the code, you know, on their own. You tell them, go say, hey, you got cheat code there. They say, don't want, I want to do it myself. Okay, they will take that time and they will try and do that. So if you realize, right, that trend, there's a strength there. You know, in real life, if they can do that for their studies or their passion or something, it will be very, very good. But then on the outside, right, when you look at them, right, don't cheat, don't sleep, don't do anything else, you know, they're just stuck at the computer because it's the game. But then you must realize what is the motivation and what are they working towards within the game, right? And the other one, which is a smaller group of gamers, they're called the explorers. We call them the really curious ones, like everything must touch. But they don't go in depth, like the guru want to know everything in depth, okay? But the explorer is just curious. You know, they see something, one box of it, hey, what is this? You see a door open, must go and see what's happening. The whole team can go everywhere, you know, in the like moving on already. Then they'll be like, why is that friend, you know, oh no, I still want to see that one. That thing there was there. So they are very, very curious. Okay, and they will play, and they're happy to play alone. Sometimes they choose to play alone simply because they feel that the team moves too fast. They cannot do what they want to do. Okay, so the gurus and the explorers can end up playing solo. Okay, pretty much solo. But the achievers and the socializers always take reference from their friends. Okay, achievers you say first, right? Because it's always in relation to their friends. If there's nobody else, they cannot compare, there's no bragging rights, they hardly would play. Yeah, so these are the 4 clear types.
I thought it's so insightful what you shared, because even as I listen to what you're sharing, I think the whole gaming industry is literally a subculture. So for example, if I don't score well in school, academically I'm not driven, at least here I'm a winner, I'm a somebody. And at the end of it, self-esteem, we all want to know that we're good at something. And it doesn't matter whether my parents approve of it or not, at least here in this world, I became a somebody, or I have friends who accept me for who I am. And I think that's something that's very critical. So thank you for sharing the insight. And I'm sure, parents out there will be able to, The other thing that you shared that I think is very important is, while we only see them being stuck, glued in front of the computer, there is a whole genius here that we may not acknowledge them for. And yet, that gets to be acknowledged through the games that they play. So begin to look out for that, like what you were saying, the curious ones, those who want to socialize, those who want to achieve, and those who are very creative in being the master at something. Because if we can acknowledge them there and put it in real life, can you imagine the successful person that they actually already are? So let's not reduce their success to just game time, but bring it on to real life.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me that when we look at our kids and say, these are not focused, but actually they can focus, it's just a matter of where they focus. They are not focusing on the things we want them to focus, then we say they are not focusing, actually they are focusing on the games. So understanding the psychology of why they get so-called addicted to the games helps, and it brings to mind like the 5 languages of love by Gary Chapman, right? And he talked about affirmation being one, quality time, give, hugs, and acts of service. Yeah, this part. So hearing Pauline talk about the achievers and the socializer. So socializer is more like spending quality time. Do we spend quality time? Because parents now, dual income, they have lesser time, so we don't spend enough time. So they have to go to the virtual world to seek that connection, which they find is lacking in their own personal life at home. And for the achievers, it's about affirmation. Do we affirm them enough in the things that they are good at?
Wonderful. So now I want to ask you, my experts, what do you think is one common mistake in parents' relationship with the teens today? You can just share one so that we can learn and begin to do less of that. Probably you continue, Dr. Debbie.
Yes. So I think one of the biggest mistakes is that parents see the child as the extension of themselves. They do not see the child as an individual. They do not see the child as their own person that needs to respect and need to be respected and needs that existence to be acknowledged. So once actually parents started to separate their own dreams and wants from what the children want and need and wish, actually this is a bigger step. This is one big step they need to take, because a lot of parents think that they own the child, that anything they wish, they want must be acknowledged by the child and being carried out by the child. So this is the biggest, I would say, thing that parents actually can do as a first step.
I think that's so powerful, because even I am guilty of that, okay? I want to say, when I had my first child going into primary school, I was an athlete in school, right? And then CCA time. And then she's like, Mom, I think I want to choose. I can't remember what she chose. I was like, why don't you join the netball? Mom represented school for netball, netball. And she's like, but I'm not you, Mom. And that one-liner hit me in the face. And I actually got, yeah, you're right. And I'm so sorry if I tried to impose where I came from. You are your own person. And from that moment, I mean, it was just a one-liner, but it really hit me. I decided to embrace them for who they are. Not just academically, but even sports, even your choices for food, simple things, even what they wear, right? So now my kids, they dress themselves up, look funny, wear like, wow, amazingly eye-catching clothes that people don't normally wear out to the shopping mall. It's okay. You only live once. And I've learned how to be secure enough as a mom to say, whatever you want, I'm behind you. People laugh at you, I will support you. So very powerful insight. Pauline, what's one thing that parents can do less of?
I think is to be able to respect the things that your child loves. And in my area of work is games. I think a lot of parents think that games is bad. Then can you imagine your child loves games and then my parents think it's bad. And then that disconnect is there already. Okay, so it could be games, it could be anything else. If your child loves something, I think it's you should love the child enough to find out a bit more about what they love. Okay, and through that, understand them.
Again, I'm guilty. But I think this was with my husband, right? He likes playing games, and I'm like, why are you playing games? But you know, to be very frank, right? I've seen how his games connect with the kids. So just last night, you know, my son, right, 3 years old now, my husband was like, okay, you haven't finished that game. No, you have to. And he was actually connecting, and in my mind, right, you are so right, because I don't play games, right? I'm like, why are you teaching my 3-year-old to play a game? But my husband was like, you know, he's pretty good at it. I'm like, are you serious? Like 3-year-old can actually be pretty good. So I get like how for me, I automatically decide, yeah, husband, bad influence. But I think embracing what my husband is doing through the games, and then as well as the boundary, as well as they're not doing that like excessively, because I think that was a very short period, but still I innerly, inward, I reacted to it. So thank you. I will tell my husband to be intentional, and I will support him with my heart this time, because I think always my face change on me, you know. And Melvin, what's something that parents can do less of?
I would say that a lot of times parents out of fear, like if they don't study, next time how to earn money, cannot get a good job, that kind of thing. And also, I would like to encourage parents to parent out of love. We want our children to respect us, not to fear us. There was this incident where my husband, you know, he loves the army, right? And then he was trying to influence my boy, but my boy is never interested. He was just like P2, and there was this army roadshow. Then he wanted to bring my son. Then my son died out, also didn't want to go. To him, it's so boring. I didn't want to go. And so the two of them had a fight. And after that, I spoke to my husband. I said, would you want your son to kowtow to you and say, okay, because daddy is fiercer, more powerful, he's an authority, I bow down to him, but inside I have a lot of resentment. I really hate it. Why can't he accept? I really don't like it. And then, you know, I don't have to fight so hard, right? And so parents, like what Paul said, learn to respect what they love. And or would you have your kid now have to fight so hard just to win you over? You know, the amount of fight, the resistance they have is the amount of resistance you have for your kids. So they will not back down. Okay? A strong-willed child will want to win you until you back down. But the minute he finds that he cannot win you and he comes down to your authority, then he's doing that out of fear. And next time, you wouldn't want your son or your kid to actually go to school being bullied, and because his authority said so, he will counter and say, no, authority is to be feared, authority is to be to bow down to. Then we did not raise a child strong enough to stand up for himself or herself.
I think that's so pertinent what you talk about, and I want to draw a distinction twice, right? I mean, two different groups, because I was quite one of those rebellious kids, right? So it doesn't really matter, because on the outside, I may do what you want me to do, but on the inside, you know, there's that rebelliousness on the inside, and then on the other side, right, those passive ones that probably even do what you want them to do, on the inside, they begin to lose their voice. And is this what we want to bring up our teenagers, where they don't dare to speak up? Or because at the back of their head, even if I speak up, it doesn't make a difference because my parents always win anyway. And then as they begin to lose their voice, because each of us are individuals, and we don't realize, right? But as we strip them of their options and their choices and their autonomy, they lose that voice and their uniqueness. And I believe that every child has a unique destiny to fulfill. And then they become less confident. The self-image comes in.
That's why there are some kids, they may behave one way in front of the parents. Then the parents are like, oh, they're so proud of the kids, like trophy kids. But behind the parents' back, you'll be surprised they are doing a lot of different things that will shock you. And I see that happening. And when the parents finally realize, they cannot take it. They realize that how come my kids, I thought he is this way or she's that way, but it's a rude shock to them.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I'd like to add is that parents sometimes forget that the child actually has red light and green light. There are times when the child is really cannot take anything in, and you need to detect when they are not looking at you, when they are look disinterested, when they hate the subject, when they don't want to talk about it. Please respect them. We find time, actually we wait until they come to us. But sometimes parents are so busy, are so engaged in our work, in socializing, in doing something, that we miss the signal when the child comes to us. So be more sensitive. Pick up the time when the child actually comes to you. And when the child comes to you, appreciate it. Tell them how much you like it that they come to you. How much you appreciate that actually they are interested to talk to you. How much actually how meaningful it is actually to have that conversation with your child. This is the way to build relationship.
I so love what Debbie said, and she and I have conversed prior to this. And one of the things when I just applied this, I realized my third child, right? Like every time I come back from school, how was your day? Don't feel like talking, never even answer me, But, I decided like, what's a convenient time for me may not suit them because they are maybe exhausted physically, mentally, emotionally, and they just want to like sit and read book. Ignore me, So I decided I'm not the child anymore, so let's stop throwing the adult tantrum, right? And I decided to, let's back off. And then later on at night, she came to me. Even though I was busy on my computer, busy with so many things to do, she came to me and I think it was a very simple question. She asked me like, Mom, where is something? And I used that opportunity to get a sense, a cue that she's now ready to open up. I put aside my thing, even though so much of me just wants to complete what I started, and I just went, and that was a very short period. I think we spent probably less than 10 minutes, but she was ready to open up. And it's me availing myself to meet her at her time, so not convenient for me. But I think it's through teachable moments like that I get to connect with the children, right? But it takes parents, it takes a lot of us to change our mindset of how parenting is. Yeah. So I want to move on to ask Pauline, what specific actions can parents do more of? So we've covered, what parents can avoid, but what can we do more of?
I just want to continue on the thread, when you're talking about the right time. We have instances where when parents try to take the devices away from the child, and you're talking about teenagers, especially boys, right? If they're growing up, 15 years old, 16 years old, 18 years old, they're bigger than their moms, big, strong, and the moms get hit now, okay? Yeah. Or it's like a tussle, right? And it's pull, and then somebody gets bruised or somewhere. And I will go back to the timing, okay? When we talk about gamers, when parents always ask, so when will they stop? When do we find time to talk to them? I think we always say, instead of setting a certain time, like 1 hour or 2 hours, go in terms of number of games. Find out from them, one game about how long? Oh, this game 20 minutes. Okay, maybe you play about 3 games, 4 games, cannot. Because sometimes the game time will be a bit different. In sports, like the same, every game, it can be a bit longer, a bit shorter. So give them that. Then they realize, oh, I think mom understands me a bit. Okay, then reasonable, right? Negotiate that. Reasonable enough, stop them. But if they're in the heat of the game, and then you're also in the heat of it, and then you switch off the computer,
or you
press off, that's it, that means it's explosion. Okay, I will tell you, because you are emotionally very explosive already, and then your action triggers another explosion. So you got 2 explosive person coming together. You don't need a child, okay? 2 adults explosive, right? You can imagine what's going to happen. So, and if that happens, usually the relationship gets very, it just gets very difficult to mend after that, to get everybody calm down and talk through. So timing wise, so I will always say, parents, if you have issues with your child not talking to you and you are so tempted to do that, don't find a best time, work out a time, child, can I talk to you maybe after 2 games? then that's then they also know, okay, that's reasonable. Okay, find something that they find reasonable.
I love the wisdom and that principle that you're sharing, and for me, I am going to use it because I realize it's not just for game, but probably even for my kids, right? Reading a book. So I am guilty, I'm one of those who, time to sleep now, and then you're still reading a book, guess what? Off the light long. And now, I mean, that was in the past, okay? But I get how that, I mean, if I'm reading in the middle of the most important part, then you suddenly switch off the light, it's definitely not going to do well for our relationship. So I get that this principle is applicable not just for game, but even in the activity that they intend to set the time. So have a pre-agreed.
You
Yes.
always give them choice because they growing up, they feel like I'm free. I need to have my voice. So it's, I used to like now, do it now, like instant gratification. But for then later on, I realized, okay, do you want to do it 15 minutes later or before 3 p.m.? I know by 3 p.m. I want them to have it done. But I give a stricter one because I know for sure they will not pick that one. So I give them choice. So they cannot say you never give me choice. So I say, you want 15 minutes later or before 2 o'clock? Before 2 o'clock. So I say, can I have yogurt? They say yes now. So really before 2, they do it and then they'll come back. I got it done. Then you can say, oh, well done, I honor you. I thank you for honoring your word and keeping to your promise. So then it's better this way than insisting having our way and then in the end, nobody gets his or her way anyway.
Read that World War III.
Yes, actually something that parents can do is that find time, maybe once a week, twice a week, to actually sit down together with the child when they are playing the game. Just be there and be like the bug on the wall and just be and try to figure out what happened with them on the game. And of course, before that you do your homework, you try to figure out what game they are playing, what characters are there in the game, what is the goal of the game, what are the lingo of the game, what actually happens, because there are a lot of threads. Actually, internet is such a great source of wealth of information. We can actually go to the thread and read all people talk about the game and what is in the trending topic of that people talk about the game. Then we actually, it's like this, when we like someone, let's say like a certain boy or wants to make friend with you. I wanted to know what you like. Then if I know that you like a certain thing, then I will get it for you, so something like that. So we need to do our homework to get close to our kids, especially those kids who are already on rebellious state, those who totally refuse to talk. But even if the child and the parent has not come to that stage, we can start building relationship from there.
I so totally love what you said, Debbie, because you remind me, right? What's love? Love is not about me projecting what I want, not about me imposing what I want. But love, remember when our part stage when we were younger, what do you like to eat? Where do you want to go? We are so open to discovering the interests of the other person. So that's a tiny reminder for me. With me, right? Husband and, that, like what we said, for me to begin to embrace something that's not natural for me. And I'm going to take that on. Because for me, if that's something they're interested in, then I can learn to enjoy, to be involved in that part of their world because I love you. And love without action is dead, right? Words are cheap, right? And which brings, and Delphine, just now you were saying something that I think is very important. You were talking about autonomy. I think in today's days, right, because we live in such a fast-paced society, do now, instant, it should have been done yesterday. But I think something that you bring up is autonomy, where instead of us dictating to the kids, and we forget they're no longer kids, they are teenagers, it's for us to hear from them. And so one trick that I use, right, when I give autonomy, because give them two choices. The joke with the younger kids, I will ask, so you want to eat 4 carrots or 8 carrot slices? So either way win already, right? But as they grow older, they become smarter. So with my older ones, you're right. One is I let them have control about it. The other one is either that or I'm coming in. I'm coming in by this time. So either way, they still get to do where we're guiding them towards, but they experience choice. Because I can imagine I won't like it if choice is forcefully taken from me every single day. Come back only what time I eat, what I do, when I sleep, and so I can imagine.
I think one thing I want to emphasize is parents, please take note that our children are given to us as gifts. They are not our curses. They are not here to make life difficult for us. Likewise, we have to think that we are not in their lives to make things difficult for them. That is something really important because I see a lot of parents, they give up hope. This kid is a problem. This one is a jinx to my family. And then from then on, everything that the kid does, they will have a very negative energy towards it, and not to do that. Once you start to think that all kids actually are here to teach us as well as adults, we can actually learn so much more about ourselves, and they are very good teachers. And if we can just open up our eyes, actually, our kids, no kid likes to hate their parents. No kid likes to hate their parents. And do you think they feel good if they feel like I hate my parents? But they hate themselves for even hating that. For even having such thoughts, we ask ourselves, we are also somebody else's child, somebody else's daughter, son. Do we love to hate our parents? We don't. We just love to love them. But sometimes when they do certain things to irritate us, we get upset for being disrespectful. But at the same time, we also get angry with ourselves, like, why can't I love my parents? Why can't my parents be lovable? So help them to love us and not to hate us, because it is such a painful situation.
I think that's so beautiful what you shared, because I, for one, grew up with a very bad relationship with my mom. 7 days a week, 6 days Cold War, to a huge argument to another 6 days Cold War. And I remember this one scene where I reached a point where my father will mediate between us. Okay, you state your side, And I remember this one point, right, in exactly what you said, Alvin, where I said, you know what, I don't care about the relationship anymore. I don't even care to state my point anymore. Because to me, in my mind, I didn't know how to make the relationship work. So sometimes, I think as adults, as parents, we tend to overreact to the words they use, right? So as a child, when I said I don't care about this relationship anymore, it was a cry for help. It wasn't like I didn't really care. I don't know how to love my mom anymore. I don't know how to not fight. I don't know. It's more a cry. And if we don't react to the words that they use, and we listen to the deeper cry of their heart, you are right. Every child wants to connect, but they don't know how. So how do we help them?
So I really agree with that. What you say, it's amazing. That is so true. You know what? The first thing that we need to do is first do not have negative judgment. When the child says something, does not mean they mean it. When they shut themselves from you, does not mean that they are being rude. Does not mean that they are rebelling against you. It's probably like what you said, a cry for help. So we need to actually open our mind and step back every time actually a child does something that might be seen as negative, because we might not know what is their daily life. They could have been bullied in school. Somebody might have something say very, very bad. Their teacher might hurt them. Things they might be talked about, mocked, and they have it hard, and they cannot express it, and they come home and we are asking them, why you're not smiling at me? Why you're not saying hi?
It's like we judge. This thing I learned, okay, is we judge people by their actions, but we judge ourselves by our own intentions. Like a story I read, which is this little girl, she was having 2 apples, and she took 1 apple and she started eating. And then the mom came along, and then the mom said, hey, can I have the other apple? Then the girl, her daughter, took the other apple, she took a bite and then said, give it to you. Then the mom got really upset. Wow, this silly girl, no, so selfish, no. I just asked for 1, she already got 1 apple, why you want to take a bite before you give it to me? So she was really upset. So she asked her mom, She asked the doctor, why did you do such a thing? Then she said, Mom, I wanted to see which one is sweeter. So I took a bite of this apple. This is a sweeter one, so you can have it. So without understanding her intention, we just judge her action as like, terrible girl, wicked girl. But when we do something, we judge our intention. Like we don't give something to our kids. Ice cream don't give, instant noodles don't give. To the kids, it's like, my mom terrible. No, don't give me things that I love. Why? Really, she doesn't love me. But our intention is, it's not good for your health. That's why I stop you. But they judge us based on our action. But we judge ourselves based on our intention. So it's important to realize that.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful. I mean, so often it's so quick. And I think we live in a judgmental world. And that's something I want to bring up. And this is, I want to say this, right, because I think from the brain, right, it's automatically done. We're talking about 70,000 thoughts a minute that just flashes by. Even without that, I just look at you, immediately my brain is unconsciously judging, coming from the past of what should and should not be. And I think as we understand that, we learn to first have compassion on ourselves, right? Where, sometimes I come back, I'm tired, and, judgments just happen so quickly, but it's the ability to really be present first, to catch those thoughts and say, you know what, let's create a space. Because we talk about what is so different from a human being from any other living creature is that before we react, there is this space, and we don't need to react, we can respond. But in that space of sanity is where choice is, right?
That's where the belief system lies. And this is where we can actually make that choice. Whether we want to react or we want to stop and think what actually we need there. That is so important.
Yes. So, okay. Yes, I think like parents, I used to be a reactive mom. I probably still am, right? Especially on days that I've had a long day and I go back tired. So I think it's on me to constantly just be present, check myself. I always tell the kids, no one can make you angry. So it's no one can, right? Because if I'm angry, it's my emotion, accept me. So even if I slap you, you don't choose to react, there's nothing I can do about it. So, okay.
There's no perfect mother, there's no perfect parent. So if we make a mistake, we just apologize, we go back. We are not saints, okay? We are human beings. So if we cannot control ourselves, we cannot expect our children to control themselves too. So if we lose control, then eat the humble pie. Then go and apologize to the kids and say, okay, what you did, but don't start off by pointing out their fault. They say, what I did was wrong. I apologize for this part. I'm sorry. But that doesn't mean I condone what you did was correct. But for my part, for the way I responded, for the way I reacted, I'm sorry. I just thought I should let you know, and also let you know that I still love you.
Yeah, so totally in alignment with what you say. It's the how. My message may not change, but if I was shouting at you, then the how mom can improve. Mom can learn how to control my emotions so that you get the message still. Yeah.
One thing that I think I'd like to add is that parents often think that they are supreme, that they are superior. But the thing is that in order for parents to do all the things that we talked about earlier, the parents must have strength. And the strength cannot come from themselves. They need something. They need to be loved. They need to actively understand that they need care. They need that love. In order to do that, then they need to learn to be vulnerable, to acknowledge they are human. That, okay, I am now in this state, I want to love my child, but I'm so drained. What can I do to make myself happy? Then they need to start to realize that a lot of these thoughts, all these beliefs actually come from themselves. Then they need to understand that they need to realize what is their belief system. We need all judgment, there is a belief. We need all the reaction, there is a belief. What is that belief? If I'm angry for the child for playing game, what is the belief behind it? The child might not have a good job because the child does not study. And if the child does not have a good job, the child will end up being miserable. And the child will be miserable because he will not be able to eat sushi or go to overseas because they cannot earn enough money. But all this belief system is there. And once you actually think about it and catch that belief system, you think about it again. Is he playing game means that he is going to be miserable in the future? Is he playing game now means that he's going to be poor? Is he playing the game now means that? And actually, at the end, our belief system will go back to us. We are the reason why. Because I will be unhappy because you are unhappy. And can you break that? And start to focus on now.
I so totally love the wisdom in what you shared, Debbie, because I think parenting is how do I say, it's a privilege in exactly what Alvin said, right? Where instead of, I'm the mom, okay, so everything I say goes, it's literally listening. And in my book, I talk about, the 4 different authority styles, where traditional and positional are no longer relevant. And yet, because we were brought up like that, for me, you are rude. Don't talk to me in that tone. Even when I'm angry, I can't express myself, So I think just removing that and the level of self-awareness, it's a privilege where for me, exactly right, I will never do it right until the day I die. But as I endeavor to be a parent that will mentor and guide you, you are not mine to own. Your life is yours to go. And exactly right. Can be a gamer, and for all you know, earn millions just because they're excellent at what they do. So our expectations may not necessarily be fulfilled. It just comes from our past and our fears, right? But who is to say that our fears are going to be real, right? They have their own lives, and they are growing up in a digital age, which is different from how we were brought up. So let's have that growth mindset. Where as parents, right, so for me, one of the things I use is, my boundary used to be smaller. I'm quite a chill mom, but I do have certain things that once you pass boundaries, like you sleep late or you eat ice cream without asking, I get, But I've realized, like a koi fish, the pond, right, the size of our kids' development and their success in life depends on us. Depends on the environment that we give them. So the bigger the pond for the same koi fish, the larger they grow. Am I right? So it's on me to expand my boundaries. Where now I think my boundaries are so wide, they can test, and I am less reactive. Compared to my husband, and we can talk about this openly, where his boundaries haven't expanded as wide by choice, right? So at dinner table, why you play with your food? It still irritates him, but for me, it's okay. So the things that used to irritate me no longer are hot buttons for me because I've worked on me, right? It's never about the kids, it's always about us. So in conclusion, I just want to ask you, is there one word or one sentence that you want to sum up this, how to be a BFF with your teenager?
I don't believe becoming a BFF, but do what a BFF can be for your kids, because your kids can have many BFF, but they only have one set of parents. So we still need to steward them, still need to teach them the right things. Although we may seem nagging, but all this go inside, and especially if we live the way we preach, they will get it. They will get it, even though they never seem to show it, but it's inside of them, and they will show it one day. And I just want to encourage all the parents out there, if you feel like my bridges have been burned, it's never too late, but we have to humble ourselves. It's so important to have that humility and that desire to want to still connect with your kids, and your kids are not a lost cause. Come on, they have how many years ahead of them? We need to have hope that after all they are your offspring. You can't be that bad also, right?
So from me, I think the most important is that parents, you are not perfect. You need to acknowledge that, and you need to love yourself as you are. If you do not accept yourself 100%, then how can you expect yourself to accept another a flowful human being. We are all have mistakes, and once you actually start to accept yourself more, you will realize that your ability to take in more from your kids is being pushed wider and wider.
Can I just say, add on to something that Debbie said? I so totally get what you say experientially. So for example, for me, I've always been taught to embrace the positive sides, right? This, like good in sports, good in studies, and good in all that. But until I embrace the dark side of who I am, so for example, that I'm selfish, that I do want, until we embrace the negative side, will we be then free to embrace the same flaw in someone else?
The good that you see in others is the good that you have in you. And the things that irritate you most about your kids is actually your shadow that you are scared to confront. So use that as a mirror image. What is it that about my kids that irritate me the most? That is something that you have, but you're scared to confront.
Yes. So I totally love that because we hear about this, the dark side, the dark shadow. So when we talk about this, right, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, we all know that classic story where Dr. Jekyll is this respectable man in UK, but he devised a potion because he wanted, in this society, we're always taught to show your good face, even on Facebook, show your pretty face, and then after that, 2 seconds later, scolding, now smile for the camera, and then after we smile, the reality of it. So I think life is an entire reel. We don't just screenshot this one thing, and it's natural for us to make judgments just based on this one. But we forget it's an entire reel. And if we look at the entire reel, we actually get that, yin and yang, the positive and the negative. So as Dr. Jekyll, right, initially he devised this potion to separate the good so that man can be on the path forever doing good. It backfired because we were not meant, in this world of duality, there is both. We are not meant to just go, because we can't appreciate light with no darkness, right? The north and south, hot and cold. So actually, his experiment went drastically wrong, where Mr. Hyde, that hideous beast that comes out at night to commit all the atrocities. So on the outside, he's very respectful, very generous as a doctor. But in us all, there is this dark side. And as we embrace the dark side, we allow our kids to also be vulnerable, to also be in touch with their humanity. And I think too often we are just out of touch with our humanity because we are caught up with wanting to look good. But really, we don't need to be perfect, and we will never be until the day we die. So the sooner we embrace our own inner demons and deal with them, is where we free our children to be the fullness of who they are. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we talk about the youth needing a growth mindset, but I really encourage the mothers and the parents to have a growth mindset as a parent as well. Yeah, it's two ways. Every time we see the parents grow, the kids' behavior change. It correlates, it ties, that relationship, that bond is so deep. So when the parents shift, the children shift as well. It's very, very powerful. So I really encourage parents, go get yourself equipped, go look at your dark side. Once your kids see, they are the ones who will see you change, immediately at home. What happened now? What happened to that?
Suddenly interested in my games.
Yeah, what happened now? Then they realize, and then I think it's good to be vulnerable and explain to them what happened. Why is there a change? And then they realize, there's growth. There can be change. My parents can change. So can I. So I think that correlation is very important to us.
Wonderful. I think we've covered a lot of ground. So thank you for spending time with us. If you agree with what we do and you want to see more and hear more, there is a QR code. So we are a social enterprise, and our heart is really to support families out there with pertinent issues that you're going through. So this is not going to be the end. In the Facebook group and in your email, please check, because we will be sending out a WhatsApp group. So if you want to be a part of this teenager group, where we will connect not just these 3 experts, but even more for deeper conversations to answer your questions, just join the WhatsApp group so that we can take the conversations deeper, because there's so much more that we can cover.
Can I just add, actually, I don't see myself as an expert. I would see myself more like exploring, because at the end of the day, I like to think that you are your own expert of your own children. study them so well that every time, from the top you also know what's going on. I mean,
Smelly fart.
yeah, you really have to know and study them so well that whatever that they're thinking, you kind of like know, but you don't expose them. Give them a chance to come share, but you kind of like lay the stage for them so that when they come down sweet, they don't feel embarrassed. So we have to protect their dignity in some way.
Yeah, I love what you say. Like, how do we set our children up for success? And there are different tools that we can learn. So, in conclusion, I want to say that Delphine is generously giving a free consultation. So, this is the price time, worth 375. So, do key in teen zillions in the comment below. We will pick one lucky person to receive a consultation with Delphine. And Dr. Debbie is also giving 1 free hour consultation with her, where she talks about different things. I think it's not just connecting with teenagers, but she also talks about nutrition, autism,
Depression,
mood swing. So there are a lot of other topics that when we talk about depression that we didn't get to cover, but we will. So join the WhatsApp group. And Pauline does Comeback. So Comeback is really a program that she has for teenagers, for parents to also better understand our teenagers and where they come from.
Okay, we do have a parents' webinar on the 21st November. It's free, so you can actually sign up for that. So 3 hours worth.
Yeah, so please put Comeback if you want this, so that we can reach out to you and tell you the link. And for Dr. Debbie, put Brainworks. Brainworks, that's the name of a company. Other than that, I want to thank you. Join us for the next 4 days, where tomorrow we will focus on relationship with self, because today we talked about it. How to have compassion first for ourselves, because I cannot pour from an empty cup. And yet society tells me I have to give and give and give. Okay, so we're talking about self tomorrow, spouse on Wednesday, wealth and health. So if you have friends who you know can benefit from this, get them to register so that they can watch the replay. Until then, thank you for being with us and supporting what we do. Bye.